In this one, I'm going to be dealing with how to step up on your ability to see, to hear, and to prophesy accurately. Your depth with forensic prophesying. So when you talk about increasing your ability to see, some persons are like, can I increase my ability to see? When a prophet is supposed to be somebody that is called of God, and so God continues to give these persons whatever He wants them to communicate to His people with ease, not knowing that the journey into the prophetic faculty is one that is like every other journey. For instance, let's begin here. Matthew chapter 4, and look at it there in verse 18. And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers, Simon Peter and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen, or they were fishers. And he said unto them, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men. There was a time for their calling. Then there was a time when they now were trained or made, as Jesus put it, to become fishers of men. So you go through processes. If you're already called and you're already prophesying, congratulations. But I want to say here that there are increasing depths in the prophetic that you go. One of the first things is to understand that you've been called, or discover what it takes to communicate with God, because some of us learn how to communicate with God for the first time in the course of the experience of our call. Let's go to Samuel chapter 16 and verse 1 to see how David was called. And the Lord said unto Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Then he went on to say, fill your horn with oil and go, I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. It was not David that was informed by God. It was Samuel God told here. Then in verse 12, when Samuel came, the word reads, and he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and of a beautiful countenance and handsome. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. At this time, David was not aware of his calling. He was not also aware that he was going to be a prophet. So in verse 13, Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. This was the time that David got a clue that he's been called. It was Samuel that disclosed the mind of God about David to David. But when the oil of Samuel, the prophet, came upon the head of David, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him from that day forward. So spiritual transaction took place. We now move to Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 30, in verse 7. And David said to Abiathar, the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray you bring me here the ephod. And Abiathar brought there the ephod to David. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. This David that could not personally hear God about his call, so that even when Prophet Samuel was coming to anoint him on that day, because he was not able to perceive or hear or see Samuel coming, or that God was sending a man to anoint him on that day, went rather into the bush to take care of the flock of his father, so that he had to be called upon before Samuel identified him and anointed him. This was the David that over a period of time and growing in the Lord started learning now how to hear from God. It was not Abiathar that inquired, it was David that inquired at the Lord, and the Lord spoke to David, and David heard God. So David now increased in his spirituality, and at this time, he was able to hear God. So you grow in stages. There are occasions where somebody will prophesy that you're going to be a prophet, but you hear nothing. And it's going to be taking maybe a lot of years, or it has taken a lot of years or months and so on, and nothing is happening. And it's like, are you sure this person is correct or that prophet was correct? Let's see how David grew in his prophetic ability. Second Samuel chapter 2. And the word reads, and it came to pass after this that David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah? And the Lord said unto him, go up. And David said, where shall I go up? And he said, unto Hebron. So David went up there. He trusted his ability to hear God personally here. And if he wants to prophesy to someone else, he would have as well equally done that right and would have been accurate. So his ability to hear God speak to him was the type that was on an increasing order. In several other battles, David was able to ask God exactly what was supposed to be his decision about going into the war or not. And then God will instruct him whether to go to the battle or not, and how to conduct the army of Israel in engaging in that battle. So, how can I increase my ability to see? How can I increase my ability to hear or perceive? Let's see how God did it for Abraham in Genesis chapter 15 and verse 5. And he brought him forth outside and said, look now towards heaven and count the stars, if you were able to number them. And he, God, said unto him, Abraham, so shall your descendants be. What he did for Abraham here was to learn how to guess with expectation. In the first place, a picture was cast here. Your descendants are going to be stars. What brought him out of his people, out of his family, his kindred, and his country to the one that God showed him was a hearing. Here, God now was teaching Abraham how to see. And when Abraham was seeing the stars, instead of just stopping with the stars and counting the stars, so in the stars, Abraham was going to catch the vision of his descendants spread that way. They'll become uncountable. So he started seeing that way. But here, he was able to see into the future. Sometime in the beginning is a vision of stuff that will be happening later on. Vision into the future. That it's more or less not specific enough, or the time for the fulfillment of the vision is long. Then we move to Genesis chapter 22, where God now called Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, his son, unto him. And built an altar, laid Isaac on the altar to sacrifice him unto God. God called unto Abraham. Here Abraham looked up, then he saw behind him. Can you see that Abraham's ability to interact with the prophetic realm kept rising? At first he had. The next time God showed him a vision of something that was going to happen in the future, it hasn't happened, so we aren't sure. Here he looked up, then he saw immediately. The same way he looked at the stars and saw his descendants by the revelation God was given to him, as numerous as the stars of heaven. And we have them today. Even so, the man Abraham looked up this time and saw behind him, then turning back, the ram was caught on its horns in a thicket behind him, according to what he had seen. If you can see a thing with clarity prophetically, it becomes easier to manifest it by the anointing. Try to blank the atmosphere so that you can switch from this realm to the other realm, so that you don't allow many other thoughts to interplay in your mind, so you can be focused as if everywhere is blank and you just interacting with God. It's going to be very easy for you to pick the slightest picture, vision, or movie that plays there in the realm of the spirit. And this has to be a regular lifestyle where you know that even if you're interacting with people, you are tuned into the spirit. So you can pick the slightest revelations or visions or flashes that will pop up in the realm of the spirit. You're tuned to that point where you are sure that you are now set to pick anything indicated or signified in the spirit realm. That's the point that Abraham was to get that. People miss it when they prophesy sometimes because they have not been able to learn how to be here and not here. You are here, but your spirit man is busy interacting in the spirit realm. So that realms that you've not been able to access originally, ordinarily, being there, you are beginning to crack them open in the realm of the spirit. So you're interacting with God, you're meditating on the word in the process, or traveling by the word. There are occasions where you have to travel by the word. So if you're tuned in the spirit consistently, over time, there will be a remarkable increase in your accuracy that's in doing forensic prophecy when you prophesy. The next point is to do the prophetic. For you to have your prophetic level appreciate, you have to be doing the prophetic so that you are growing on the job, doing the prophetic daily, trying to minister to somebody, given the opportunity. It increases your chance of advancing in accuracy. Sometimes God cares to work on a character first. So Peter's character was worked on in a period of 3.5 years. Then he was given the office. The moment he was given the office, Peter could now discern issues. He could now prophesy issues and could be accurate. When he spoke about the woman and the husband, uh, Aeneas and Sapphira, he got it right, what they were thinking or what they had done. He knew that something was wrong or mixed up somewhere. And he asked a question. He discerned and he got it accurately. That was not the Peter that we used to know in the early days of his discipleship training under Jesus Christ. So, in doing the work daily, your accuracy increases daily. Accuracy will increase when you sit alone or stand alone or walk alone and you're beginning to uh, reflect through the scriptures that you have read over the years and try to see their imagery played there in the realm of the spirit, and you alone, sometime outside preferably, and you allow the natural atmosphere to speak to you. Sometimes it's in the night, sometimes it's in the daytime. All these contribute to increasing your accuracy. Then learning to hear God talk to you, even when it's difficult, and trying to act on what He has said increases your accuracy. Because when you act on what it said, although it's maybe difficult and eventually you got it right, or notice that what you actually heard was right and worked as the Spirit had told you, it will increase your confidence. Because your confidence is increased, once God speaks to you, you will be sure this is God talking to me. So if God is going to speak with you and you are going to speak back to Him, and this is going to be happening like a two-way traffic in which you communicate with Him, He communicates with you, and you keep creating repeated engagements of such with the Spirit of God, either in the place of personal prayers or in the place of worship, that's in songs, or in the place of sacrifice when your conscience is talking about sacrifice, and in the place of meditation, or in the place of the studying or engagement of the word, and you're trying to see how that you and God are communicating. That's you increasingly curious and having an increased hunger for hearing God or to see in the realm of the spirit while you're going through that, it will open for you more and more. There are also occasions where we don't start at the same place or increase from the same place. Whereas in my own case, it's going to be the hearing ability that is going to be worked upon on an increasing note and with greater ease. In your own case, it's going to be the seeing or the perception ability. So when you're knocking at the door, because I taught you about hearing, and hearing is not coming, try to check out for the other signals. There may be tiny flashes and all of that coming up in your spirit. And if you're already in the prophetic and you're already prophesying, seeing and hearing, then you are going to have to repeatedly practice hearing. It's important. Try to find out how to better hear God. That's in when you are able to create useful time to personally hear God, not in a meeting, not to prophesy, but for yourself as a prophet. So the clearer your personal discussion with God before meetings or exposure to ministration platforms is, the easier it is for you to prophesy and be accurate when you do. And if you practice in hearing and seeing quietly, it will come to the point where you begin to have angelic presence each time you isolate yourself to interact with God, and where angels begin to make manifestations because the presence of God is attracted because of your continuous business or transaction with the word in your imagination. And the presence of God being drawn, his angels are being drawn. So with your heavenly interaction that's going on in that mini heaven, a prophetic portal now created as a result of your inquisitive approach to seeking God's presence, voice, and to see what he's going to show you. You'll discover that when you come out to minister anywhere, your accuracy will be unmatched. That's a secret of how to increase your ability to see, hear, and prophesy.